Hello, my friends. My name is Miss Eerie, and today I'm going to share a chilling story with you. A story about betrayal, death, and revenge. Have you ever wondered what would happen if someone died, but their memories of their death stayed intact? Well, let me tell you, it's not something you want to experience. So sit back, relax, or maybe not, because this one will send a cold chill right down your spine. This story begins with a man named Ryan. He was successful, charismatic, and had everything anyone could ask for: wealth, respect, and the loyalty of his best friend Mark. They had been inseparable since childhood. They were closer than brothers, and nobody doubted the strength of their friendship. But, as the saying goes, people change, and trust can be a fragile thing. One fateful night, Ryan received a call from Mark, asking him to come over. "Ryan, I need to talk to you. It's important." Mark's voice was shaky. Ryan, not thinking much of it, immediately got in his car and headed to Mark's place. As he drove through the dark, stormy night, something felt off. The wind howled, and the rain slammed against his windshield, making it hard to see. But he pushed forward, unaware of the horror that awaited him. When Ryan arrived at Mark's house, it was eerily quiet. No lights on, no sounds. Mark opened the door with a forced smile, but his eyes betrayed something. A kind of nervousness, maybe even fear. "What's going on, man?" Ryan asked, trying to lighten the mood. "I've got something to tell you," Mark said without answering the question. He handed Ryan a glass of whiskey. "Just drink this. We'll talk." Ryan hesitated for a moment, sensing something was off, but he trusted Mark completely. He took the glass and drank it down. Almost immediately, his vision blurred, his body felt heavy, and he collapsed onto the floor. Mark stood over him, cold and calculating. "I'm sorry, Ryan, but I had no choice." The world around Ryan went black. That was the last thing he remembered before everything went dark. The next day, Ryan's body was found. Police deemed it a sudden heart attack, an unfortunate tragedy, and no one thought twice about it. Mark, seemingly devastated by his friend's death, moved on with his life. But little did anyone know, Ryan's soul wasn't at rest. He wasn't gone. Not yet. Months passed, and in a small, quiet town, a man no one recognized appeared. He kept to himself, avoiding the townsfolk, his eyes shadowed with something that didn't belong in this world. He wandered the streets at night, as if searching for something. But it wasn't until one night, when he had a vivid, terrifying dream, that he remembered it all. Ryan found himself in a dark room, covered in bloodstains, with the smell of death in the air. He could hear someone whispering, "You were betrayed, Ryan. It's time to get your revenge." He jolted awake, his heart racing. His memories of his death flooded back to him. He remembered Mark's face, the betrayal, the pain, and the anger. Oh, the anger. It was then that Ryan realized he had been reborn. He was alive, but not in the way that he had once been. His body was different, colder, more detached, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was hunting him. That something or someone was after him. And the worst part? He could feel it. It was Mark. Ryan set out to find Mark, not as the old friend he once was, but as something darker, something driven by revenge. Mark had been living in comfort, in a nice house, surrounded by people who had no idea about the terrible thing he had done. But Ryan wouldn't let him forget. He searched for him relentlessly, going from town to town, asking questions, leaving a trail of whispers wherever he went. People started to notice strange things happening around them. Doors would open on their own, heat lights would flicker, and in the dead of night, they would hear footsteps, always behind them, always following them. And then, one night, Mark started hearing it too. It started with a faint sound, scratching at the door, like fingernails dragging across wood. Then, the whispering. "Mark," the voice said. It was a low, cold whisper, almost like a breath in his ear. "Mark, I'm coming for you." Mark didn't know what to think. At first, he dismissed it. Maybe it was just his imagination. But as the nights passed, the whispers grew louder, more persistent. He could feel eyes on him, even when no one was around. He started seeing flashes of someone in the corner of his vision, but when he turned, nothing was there. One night, Mark decided to confront whatever was haunting him. He stood in the middle of his living room, his heart pounding. "I'm not afraid of you," he shouted, his voice shaking. But deep down, he was terrified. And that's when the door creaked open. Standing in the doorway was the last person Mark ever expected to see, Ryan. His face was pale, his eyes cold, his body not quite right. It was Ryan, but not the Ryan Mark had known. This was something else. "I'm here, Mark," Ryan said, his voice dark and twisted. "You thought you got away with it, didn't you?" Mark backed away, his breath catching in his throat. "Ryan, you can't be real. You're dead." But Ryan only smiled, a cold, malicious grin that sent chills down Mark's spine. "Dead?" Ryan laughed softly, the sound echoing like a funeral bell. "I'm far from dead. And now, it's your turn." Mark tried to run, but his feet wouldn't move. It was as if the very air around him had turned heavy, suffocating. He turned back to face Ryan, but the room had transformed. It was darker, colder. Mark was no longer in control. Ryan closed in on him, step by step, his presence like a shadow that consumed the light. "You betrayed me, Mark. And now, I'll make you feel what I felt." Mark screamed, but no sound came out. The walls closed in, and the last thing he saw was Ryan's face, twisted, angry, and full of the vengeance he had promised. The next morning, Mark's house was found in complete disarray. Mark was gone. No sign of struggle, no trace of where he had gone. But Ryan's work was done. And now, my friends, remember this. When betrayal and death collide, revenge doesn't just stop, it lingers. It hunts you down, and when it finds you, it won't let go. So, be careful whom you trust, because you never know when the past come back to haunt you. If this story made your heart race, like, comment, and share it with your friends. And remember, always look over your shoulder, because you never know who or what might be following you.